What's up, metalheads? It's Death Metal Dave in your face here on MetalMessiahRadio.com, and I have another special guest. It's Mike Pucciarelli, or Pooch, from Raped Ape and Paingod, and he's an artist, and we'll let him tell you about it. What's up, Pooch?
Hey, Dave. Man, thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be on here, and yeah, man, definitely stoked to be involved with, especially with the the whole metal museum thing and Tampa, and yep, it's a very important part of time and a period of time in my life and everybody else's life that really changed, a lot of the face of music for Florida and the world too. And Ground Zero, Tampa. I mean, that's important. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Fuck yeah, and it's a must that Raped Ape is in the fold of the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal, in which I have entered all of your releases on the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal.com. It listed in from year releases through Florida. And yeah, it does need some improvement. I need the public's help out there. But yeah, man, and I wanted to include you, and I kept like telling everybody, Rob, man, I need to get in touch. Just hit him up, It's fucking fun. I did my best Rob impression. I love Rob, and we used his, he loaned his guitar this last one that you painted, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and we'll include it this time
right on.
With your, hopefully with your kind of near your stuff too. But, yeah, so tell me about, the beginning of your music and how you got into music and shit like that.
Okay. Well, I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, and my parents had an acoustic guitar. And I was starting to get into music. I started listening to Kiss a lot. I was mainly, kind of attracted to the whole look and everything, especially Gene Simmons. And I was into monsters. I was into monster movies. I was into medieval movies like Excalibur, Conan comics. I was reading a lot of stuff like that, like, medieval and sword and sorcery kind of stuff. So Kiss to me were like the embodiment of like, oh, wow, here's rock and roll with this look and the armor that Gene had and all that stuff. So that's what drew me in. And like, just to jump forward a little, that whole thing, I think is why I always stayed on the path of looking for the heavier and heavier and heavier,
Yeah.
So that's where it started. I'd say my obsession with them was really huge, and just being into monsters and everything too, it all coincided.
Yeah.
And my art too, I was always drawing monsters and drawing like, King Kong and Rosetta and barbarians and demons, stuff like that. So I was really interested in dark stuff, and it got darker and darker as I got older, reading different things and, listening to Ozzy and the Merciful Fate, stuff like that. So, I mean, I was always in a search for the heaviest stuff,
Yeah, and speaking of Kiss, it's a lot of people, that's how they started. For one, their fucking stage shows were fucking enormous and badass. I mean,
yeah. It's
fire,
just, it changed everything, and music. And, I know heavy metal, there's a lot of bands that kind of started it. And I don't think Kiss get enough credit for that. I mean, I know they were more on the rock and roll side of the sound, but their look and their image, I mean, I think a lot of that's, as well as Priest, and all that. But, I mean, Kiss, Sabbath, Priest. I mean, come on, that's the three right there to me that started it all.
Yeah. They and the Priest shows, holy fuck, those were another badass. I mean, when I first saw Priest, I was just like blown away. Rob Halford riding out on a fucking Harley. That's fucking sick.
Yeah, that's heavy metal. I mean, the word heavy metal is in the song by Steppenwolf, Heavy Metal Thunder, and that's about motorcycles. So that's another little part of. I'm always looking for, like Dio with the horns. I'm always looking like as deep as I can into why things where they came from, and it's really, there's a rich history to look into. So I'm always interested in it.
Oh yeah. And so you started getting into that, and you said you had a guitar around your house. And
yeah, my parents had an acoustic, and actually, my dad was going to learn, but he never picked it up. So I started just like, I started off by like pulling my sister around on a string, like it was like a sled. And then I was like, once I started to like actually listen to Kiss and like, oh man, maybe I should like start playing this thing. So I started like trying to play and learning just single note stuff. And then I heard Sabbath. I went over to my cousin. He was already playing drums. He was older than me. My cousin Dean Demizio.
You didn't use a pick either, did you?
I didn't use a pick. I just started plucking away with my fingers, like as if I was holding a pick, but using my fingernail of that pointer finger and my thumb, and just picking down and then learn how to do back and forth. I still didn't have a pick yet. I'm playing on the acoustic. The strings are high action. I'm building up my strength on my left hand as well, playing this acoustic. So, then when I was at Dean's, I went over to his house and went into his room, and he was older than me. He was in high school, and they're listening to something, and I'm like, what is this? And they're all smoking weed, and I'm like, they got long hair. They're into Kiss. He was always like, oh, my older cousin, he loves Kiss. Let me go hang out with him. And they were listening to Black Sabbath, and it was Iron Man, and I was like, what is that? And so that's what I was like, okay, that was the next thing. After Kiss, I was like, Black Sabbath. So went home and, was trying to learn some Sabbath. I learned Iron Man, but I think before that I learned cocaine from, God, I can never remember his name. I'm so bad at that.
Eric Clapton.
The guy from Cream, Eric Clapton. So
and this is still on acoustic, all on acoustic?
Yeah, and just learning notes, just the notes, no chords. I didn't know any chords yet.
And if anybody knows anything about
ear,
to me, I attempted to learn guitar on acoustic. That shit is fucking hard, man. And I hear from everybody, electric is the way to go first because it's easier to for some reason to mess with the chords and whatever. Once you start playing chords, it's definitely easier. But I got to say, from my experience, starting with the acoustic built up my hand strength. Right.
My reaction. So when I did get an electric, yeah. And then, eventually did get a pick even while I was on acoustic still. And then when I did get an electric, my hands were like, oh, this is so much easier. Wow. I can really go fast. And I had this picking technique, where I would use my fingers, my thumb and my pointer finger, and I would just go back and forth. I could play this really fast, like staccato picking, like Slayer or Eddie Van Halen was doing. And that was from drawing, because I would like sketch and fill in drawing without moving my hand. I'd anchor my hand down and just use my two fingers. So that developed my picking style, where most guys use their wrist or their whole arm or elbow. I use my fingers. And I saw a couple other people do that. Not many people do it. Ingve does it, and Walter Trout, a blues guy.
Wow.
And I actually met him. And my buddy, and JP from Rape Dave, he's a blues guy now. He plays blues and stuff.
Okay.
He was playing with Walter Trout, and he was like, hey man, you got to come meet him. He picks how you do. And he's like, show him. And that was kind of fun meeting him. And
cool.
Them. But yeah, the JP's all does blues now,
Killer. Love the blues. So
me too. My first concert was B.B. King, actually.
Oh, really?
I was 13.
Killer.
Yep. I heard he was coming to town, and it was at the West Palm Beach Auditorium. That's where all the shows were back in those days. And I was, at that time, I'm a little older. Like I said, I was 13, and when I started playing guitar, I was probably about 10. But I was 13, and I was reading about Zeppelin, and I was reading about the blues, how they were all inspired by blues and then Hendrix and stuff. So I'm like, well, here's a blues guy, B.B. King. I was like, hey, Dad, will you take me and my buddy Manny to go see B.B. King? Because, this is where it comes from. And he was playing guitar too, my buddy Manny. So we were both like learning guitar at the same time. So my dad said, yeah, I'll take you. That was my first concert. Yeah.
Killer, man. What a fucking first concert to do.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
So
really cool.
So how did you progress into a first band situation?
Well, from there, I was learning.
Did you ever take lessons, or were you self-taught?
I didn't. No, I didn't take lessons. No, I was self-taught, and I was like hanging out from my buddies, and went to this guy's house, Kenny Patak, and they had a band going, and they were playing some Def Leppard, and he showed me a power chord. Because I was playing, and he's like, "Oh man, you don't know this," and so he showed me the power chord, and I was like, "Oh, the gates opened up." I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, next level. Now I know power chords, and what it sounds, just like I can just remember the feeling I had. It's like, wow, that's it. That's the sound,
Oh yeah.
So then I was just kind of like playing around with some buddies and nothing really serious. But then in high school, I eventually got with some guys from the neighborhood and guys from school, and they were doing a cover band, and it was called Infinity, which is, I guess, a Journey album or a Journey song. They had keyboards, and they were really into Journey, and they did some Van Halen, they did some Motley Crue, but not the stuff I liked. But I learned a lot with them from the keyboard player. So he taught me a lot of stuff as far as like how to, just melody and working with scales and notes and stuff like that, and what goes with what chord. And so we played like a gig at the school auditorium, and the news was there, and they filmed us. And
Killer.
So my grandma made me a pair of red spandex per my request. Reason, Bruce Dickinson had red spandex.
Yeah,
so I was like, well,
yeah.
I'm going to do that, and then I had bandanas all over my legs and bandana on my head. And then I watched the news, and they showed me playing, and I was like sticking my tongue out, and like, they're like, the next Tom Petty. And I was like, no way, not Tom Petty. No. Van Halen, the next Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
So that's where my head was at, But now I saw Tom Petty, back in the, before he passed, and he was great. And I really love him now. But in those days, I was just into, the heaviest at the time was probably Shout Out the Devil, Motley Crue,
Right,
Van Halen. That's what I was listening to, Dawkins, stuff like that,
Yeah. I progressed with Foreigner, and actually my first actual concert was Cheap Trick, and
oh, that's a good one.
loved it, man.
I've seen them. They were awesome.
Yeah, it was like 79 when I saw them.
Oh, wow.
And my uncle took
That's
me.
in their
It
prime.
was killer. Yeah, it was great. I was a fan
And where was that?
immediately. And yeah.
Where was that? Was that Florida?
Oh, it's Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, Alabama, right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
It's in Alabama, yeah.
Yes, sir. And they didn't play the arena. It was a college like auditorium they played. But I'll never forget it.
Cool.
It was awesome. At University of Alabama,
Yeah.
Huntsville.
Nice. Yeah, I saw them with it was Poison and Def Leppard, like, I don't know, it's probably about 15 years ago. And
Okay, yeah.
they played first, and I really wanted to see them. So we got up front. We got some seats where the people weren't there yet. My buddy worked out at the amphitheater, so he got us up there front. So we watched Cheap Trick from like, the front couple of rows. And then by the time they were done, we scooted out so that people could get their seats. But man, they were great. They were still great, even, like I said, 15 years ago, they killed it. They were awesome.
Great fucking band. And it's a shame did you see it with the old drummer? Oh man, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank now. He always smoked a cigarette. And had
I'm
glasses.
pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think it was Bunny Carlos.
Bunny Carlos, yes.
Yeah, I think it was him. Yeah.
Hell yeah, because he doesn't play with them anymore. But I've been wanting to. He does like local gigs in Chicago area, and when I was up there, he didn't have any going on, and it's little bitty bars. And man, I'm telling you, I want to catch one of those one time because he's a character.
Yeah, that would
dude.
be cool.
He always had
that cigarette hanging out his mouth. Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, and then so how did that band go? Did you just get rid of it? Or?
So yeah, we played a couple more gigs here and there, and then I started just like getting into heavier and heavier stuff, and I was like, I want to do something heavier. So I ended up, leaving, and like the singer's mom called me up. She was like the manager sort of at the time, and tried to convince me, and I was like, no, I want to do something different, but, yeah. So, the next thing I did was probably with some other buddies in my neighborhood. That was a cover band called Deadly Blessing. We did some covers of like Priest and Metallica, Kiss.
That's a great name for a kid to come up with.
Yeah, right.
I mean, shit.
I think it was a movie or something. We were always, walking down to the video store, renting like whatever horror movies we could find.
Yeah.
So I think it was a movie that we watched. But yeah, we played like a teen club, and there was a buddy of ours, his name was Scott Gaylor. I think at the time he went by Scott Marks, but he was older than us, and he had the total look. He had like, all the leather vest, leather pants, spiked up hair. He looked like Randy Rhoads. he fucking played like Randy Rhoads. He shredded, you know. So our drummer knew him, and he was like, "I'll come play a song." So he came and played Green Man Alicia with us from Priest, and we were just like, you know, in awe of this guy. This guy's so good, you know. Like, here's another person to look up to. Like I told you, my cousin Dean,
yeah,
the musio, but it turned out Sapp, he was a drummer. So these two guys, you know, were like integral parts of, like, you know, why I, you know, who I looked up to.
right.
And actually, both of them I talked to, like, in the past couple of days. Like, I still talk to them. Yeah, man, it's great, you know.
So he had the look and the shredding, and he was a little bit older. So you he guided you guys, and y'all played covers.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, it was just that one gig, but then, like, our drummer knew him, so he would, you know, tell us what he was doing. He ended up in a band, Kid Havoc, and they played around a bunch, you know, like kind of when we were doing Rape Dave stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think
so he's, you know, he still lives here. So
Deadly Blessing was better than Kid Havoc.
Yeah,
no offense, man.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he was definitely, and he would not, you know, deny it. He was definitely more poser than we were. So, but you know,
I had friends like that too. So.
He did a bunch of stuff in L.A., so he was pursuing that side of things. You know?
Right.
I was too ugly for that. Like, I'm too ugly for that music. I got to find the ugly music.
Hell yeah,
you know,
that's what it is. Play some ugly, fucking brutal, nasty shit.
Yep. So the Deadly Blessing thing was fun. We did that for a while. Then after that, I found a band with a buddy of mine who was a drummer that I went to school with, and we got together with some other dudes. That was called Urban Disturbance, and that we were definitely getting a little more into punk. I'd heard of, you know, through Metallica. I saw the Misfits shirts, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" So I started listening to that stuff, and that didn't last too long. We didn't do much with that. There was another band called the Roids in town, and they kind of helped us a little bit find a bass player, and I was hanging out with them quite a bit. And then after that, I joined a band called the Raging Puss Bags. Again, kind of friends of some of the guys from the Roids, and that was more hardcore, you know. And I was getting into, like, you know, I'm listening to like Slayer and Metallica, and I'm listening to Corrosion of Conformity, and I'm listening to Agnostic Front, stuff like that. So I'm kind of like getting into that whole thing. DRI, you know, all that stuff was going on.
You were already crossing over. You were already crossover, like I was too. I mean, a lot of us were. I mean, because
that whole thing was, like, you know, happening. You know, you had the thrash metal. I mean, to me, it was like metal, like full-on metal. Iron Maiden, Priest, and Metallica. That's when it was like, oh shit, okay. So, like, I think I saw a thing in a magazine about them. Actually, it was a catalog I bought. It was called Under the Rainbow Records from, like, New Jersey. So I ordered their catalog from, like, the back of, like, Circus Magazine, and it describes Metallica as Kill 'Em All. Like, then it's coming out, like, it was a pre-release thing.
Oh, I see.
And they described it as a combination of, like, you know, Anti-Nowhere League and Motorhead, and, like, I'm like, what's that? Like punk and metal, you know?
Yeah.
So I ordered it, and I got it, and in the mail, and the corner was bent. I thought the record was busted, you know. I was so pissed. I opened it up, and it was okay. It was just bent around the record, you know. So I bought Kill 'Em All, like, you know, right when it came out, you know. So that was a huge thing. It was like, okay, this is now. And Raven, All for One. And then I saw in a magazine they were on tour, Kill 'Em All for One tour. That was a good one too, man. That Raven All for One, I listened to that and Kill 'Em All. Like, that's all I listened to for, like, a few months, you know. I love those two albums. Which recently they did that thing down here at the Hard Rock where they did the Kill 'Em All for One, and it was a tribute to Marsha Jones Azula from Metaphors. And we luckily had it here at the Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale, so I went to that, and it was not cheap, but it was cool because all they played was Kill 'Em All up to, like, Ride the Lightning, you know.
Oh, right, yeah. You know,
best Metallica show I've ever seen.
And Metallica played.
Yeah, Yeah,
Oh,
and they,
okay.
like I said, they did it. Yeah, it was their tribute to them. And
Oh,
then,
so
like
it's kind of a
before the show,
smaller arena kind of.
yep, yep, yeah. The Hard Rock Live is like a smaller venue, and so yeah, they had Raven open, and which was great because I'd never seen them, and they were awesome. And then, like I said, they just did everything from Kill 'Em All up to Ride the Lightning.
That is cool. That is cool. You know,
And like Am I Evil?
back to the Motorhead thing. If you think about it, they were probably the original crossover because they were like that, like you said, like punk
Right.
and punk like, and then they, metal.
Oh yeah,
So they were probably
all the punks. Yeah, they loved them. All the people in the hardcore scene, the punks, they all love Motorhead. So
yeah. It's like
that's kind of where I got turned on to them, was through those kids.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then you how did and then was it Raped Ape after that, or how did that come together?
So then Raging Plus Bags, and then then we had a radio station in town. It was called Pirate Radio, WMCL, and the guy's name's Dan Cleveland, but he went by Rattlehead, which is a Megadeth reference. So we would listen to this radio station. We'd go out to find the party. We'd go to the beach, Lake Worth Beach, and we'd listen to him. And he would talk about a band he was in called Intruder. So I thought, man, he plays bass. He's in this band Intruder. Like, let me send him a tape of me playing just whatever, shredding guitar stuff, and say, hey, man, I'm looking to put this band together. Influences are Slayer, Metallica, SOD, a lot of hardcore stuff, Agnostic Front, whatnot, speed stuff, So one night we're like driving around the beach and he plays the tape on the air, and I was like, oh, cool, So my idea was, let me get with this guy, form a band with the guy with the radio station, so that we can be played on the radio, and it will help promote us. So, and it worked out, and that's how we formed Ray Tape, and we got the singer from Intruder, Crazy Lou. He's the one who came up with the name Ray Tape. Okay. He was a mechanic, and it was like a biker term or mechanic term, like, if it runs hard and fast, it runs like a Ray Tape.
That's crazy.
So
that's killer.
He kind of had to convince us of that because we weren't having it. Me and my drummer especially were like, nah, we don't like that, So we wanted something more serious. But, it made sense once he explained it, and we were like, okay. And him and Rattlehead were they really wanted to call it that. So, and actually recently I was in New Orleans, where he lives there now, Crazy Lou. And the first thing he said was, when he came and picked us up, he was going to show us around New Orleans. I was like, you know what, man? You came up with like the best, worst name ever. He goes, well, you know what? You know one thing it wasn't? It wasn't country. And I was like, that's true. It was something heavy,
Yeah.
So,
and you got together, and did you immediately start writing and coming up with songs, or did you do any covers, or?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually, one of the covers we did was a song called Iron Dick by Coven. I don't know if you ever heard that. He would play it on the radio all the time. Yeah, it's a cool song, man. Yeah, Coven was a pretty underground band. I don't think a lot of people
Coven,
remember them.
But I don't remember that
Coven,
song. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the covers we did. We did a cover of When the Levee Breaks.
Okay.
But mostly everything else was originals. I had already started writing a bunch of riffs and lyrics and all this stuff. A lot of my influence was Slayer and SOD.
Yeah.
And, the humor that SOD had, along with the heavy riffs, that we kind of started like playing with that, and some of the lyrics we came up with, especially Lou, like he would come up with some of the more funny, like humorous lyrics. So we sort of were doing this crossover thing where it was like, metal thrash, but with hardcore and like, kind of punk humorous lyrics. So like the song Rape Tape was basically making fun of like MTV, like hair metal.
Yeah.
Posers, like in the song, so, yeah, that was a big thing at the time, was like, poser boys, they must die. That was like one of our lyrics,
Yeah. You guys got really popular up here too. And we talked, I sent you the picture of my demo of Perpetual Aggravation. Where did you record all these, by the way? In Ape We Trust. And you did the artwork too.
Yeah, in Ape We Trust. It was a small studio, and I don't remember the name of it, but Rattlehead knew this guy, and that's why we went there. And I don't think he really had much experience with metal or anything at all, but we kind of like all chipped in to try to help, get the right sound we were after, so, but I don't remember the name of that actually. The name that's on the demo is not the actual name of the studio, because Rattlehead was like, look, we're going to come up with this name. And it was like, something like Shockwave Studios, and we're going to get all these bands that we know to come record here. So that was kind of the idea. So one of the big things we did at that time was we got to open for Overkill at the Cameo. That was a huge thing for us. That was a really awesome theater, so that was when we were like, really kind of like, okay, opening for Overkill, hanging out with them, it was quite an experience. That was one of our first gigs.
I'd been to Cameo.
And Rattlehead made that happen.
I don't remember what I went to the Cameo for, but I've been to the Cameo, and it may have been with Obituary. I don't remember, but
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of shows there in those days. I saw Slayer for the first time there. I saw Anthrax for the first time there. Megadeth, Celtic Frost, At War. I saw GBH there. I saw a bunch of other a lot of punk bands played there. So it was a great place to see shows. Yeah.
The cool thing is,
so then
there was a lot of crossover going on at this time too when you guys came out too.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
Like getting like really, because like what we talked before is that the hardcore and the metal was two separate, and then somehow it just collided and became as one, sort of.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of it's from the thrash stuff that was coming out of California. And then New York, you had like Agnostic Front and Carnivore, stuff like that, which we were all paying attention to. And then Anthrax with SOD.
Yeah.
So all these, and then Metallica wearing Misfit shirts. So those bands were promoting the punk stuff. And that's kind of what got me interested in it, And then like I'd be in art class in like high school, and I'd have like, my folder would have Metallica, and then I'd have like a Misfit skull, and the kid next to me was like, hey man, Misfits, you like that? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're like a fucking metal guy. And I'm like, yeah, but I like that too. So I made a friend with this dude. Then I started hanging out with all of them in the courtyard before school with all the punks with the mohawks and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And the long hairs, and started hanging out with us. My friends came over. So it just happened that way, so.
Yeah, that's,
and so, yeah.
In Huntsville, Alabama, there was, it wasn't a huge town, but amongst all the metalheads and the hardcore punks, whatever, we kind of had to get together because we didn't have anybody else. And,
right.
It was a cool relationship actually. And, that's where,
we were all the weirdos, so it was like,
exactly.
You had the
ugly people
and the preps, like we were the ugly weirdos. So we all gravitated towards each other, and, that, the whole attitude of like the speed and all that stuff, and then skaters, everybody was skateboarding, and all that stuff too. So, it all just coincided. Like when we would play, some of our first gigs were at a skating rink called Atlanta Skateway, and they had skate night. So they'd have half pipes in there. So you'd have people skateboarding while we're playing, and it's just crazy, man. And we're young, it's like, and they supported that and made that happen, for these high school kids to have a place to play their crazy music and skateboard and stuff,
It's fucking killer. So you did, where did you record Perpetual Aggravation?
We recorded Perpetual at a place in Miami, and I don't exactly remember the name of it. But I do remember when we were there, the guys from Cynic came by and were hanging out. And we had, so to tie in with them and Rob from Cannibal, it's like, before that happened, I was not the singer, and Lou was. So Lou left. Then we got another guy named Jimmy Kelly. I went to school with him. He sang with us for a while. He had a killer voice. He was really into Chuck Billy. He kind of had that style, you know. So we did a lot of gigs with him, and then he ended up not showing up to a gig. So I ended up singing that night, and Rob was there, and we played with Cynic too. They were there too.
Oh, okay.
So basically I sang, and they were like, yeah, man, like, just sing, you got it, you know, because I knew the words. I wrote most of them, so I was able to pull it off.
Killer.
So that's why, you know, they were there the first night I sang, and then we all were, you know, always playing gigs together. And in Miami, at Washington Square was a place we played a lot. And so, like I said, you know, a couple of guys from Cynic came up. It was Paul, and I believe the bass player was Mark at the time, and Mark Van Erp.
Yeah.
And they were there at the studio. They came by just to, you know, see what we were doing and stuff. So yeah, that was a fun recording, and we were playing with a lot of bands. There was national bands coming around. Like, we opened for Sepultura in West Palm Beach at a place called The Pit, which Rattlehead opened with a friend of his. So we had a venue, as well as this guy had this radio station. Then he got together and opened this venue. So I think the first opening night was Nasty Savage, Sadist, and Death, I think.
Sick. That's
so yeah,
killer.
there was that. That was going on, you know. It was like, so yeah, we got to open for them, and
God, that was the heyday.
You know, we hung out.
That was the heyday of Florida, right there, man. Those were fun times.
Oh yeah, and like I said, we were going to Miami, we were going to Fort Lauderdale, we were playing Summers on the Beach, stuff like that. But like, to have a venue in West Palm was rare. It was like the only place, and we got to open for Sepultura, and that was Beneath the Remains tour, and we were just like, oh, you know, we worshipped that album. It was huge for us, you know. So, you know, we got to hang out with them all day, and we're playing foosball with them, and JP, our guitar player, goes to put the ball in play. He kisses it, and Max from Sepultura goes, "Hey, why you kiss ball?" And JP's like, "Oh, for luck." And he goes, "Okay, maybe I kiss ball too." So that's, never forget that story. It was just such an awesome, you know, day hanging out with them and just talking about tattoos. And, you know, they had some tribal tattoos. We had some, and we were talking about that, and just, you know, all that. So yeah, it was great. It was an amazing time.
Yeah, you guys played up here a lot, and that's how I got the demo, because you played up here quite a bit.
When we found out, like, you know, that they recorded with Scott Burns, and it said Morrisound, you know, we didn't really realize. Now that I read his book, I found out that he actually went there and recorded in Brazil. I didn't know that, but so we were like, oh, we got to record with this guy. I mean, he's doing everybody, you know, Death, Obituary. So that's why we did Terminal Reality with him, you know. So,
yeah.
And, you know, when we did that, there was a song that we were working on which got left off. It never got mixed. I was having some issues with the vocals, and he was like, you know, it's called Seen Not Heard. So we shelved it. We never mixed it. We never put it on there. So basically now when we put out with Dive Bomb Records, the re-release with the 2 remixes, that's on there now. Seen Not Heard is on there.
Hell
so
yeah.
It was mixed and finally out there. So that's the cool part of that release, you know.
So I'll have to play that shit for sure.
Yeah. And back then I remember just, you know, my memory of it was like, yeah, it wasn't worthy. And Scott suggested it, and we were like very open to, like, you know, like to us, it was like, man, this guy he knows his shit. Let's listen to him, you know? So we were like, okay. And now that I hear it, I'm like, later, I'm like, okay, it's actually better than I thought. You know, it does stand the test of time somewhat. So
killer. Yeah. And you had this thing down there called the Slammies in South Florida, and up here we had the Tampa Bay Metal Awards. And
right.
I remember somebody won something from Raped Ape.
Yeah. So Jim Hayward, our manager, he was booking a lot of shows, and so then that led to him coming up with the Slammy Awards. So one of the times that they did the Slammies, it was at the Plus Five, I think it was called. Yeah, Plus Five in Davie, and Nico McBrain lived here from Iron Maiden, so they got him to give away the Best Drummer award, and so that night he announced it, and it was our drummer J.C. Dwyer who got the award, and we had a podium. Actually, it was a cool podium. Me and my buddy Scott. He was one of our road crew guys. He did lights and everything. Scott White, he actually works with me now at my tattoo shop. So we've been friends for years. We were both into H.R. Giger and Alien and all that stuff. So he built this podium out of like black pipes, like black tubing and pipes. It's all Alien, you know.
Sick.
And so we have like, video and pictures of Nico at this podium. And I remember like, hanging out. They had built like a little backstage kind of thing inside the club. It was weird. It was like, I don't know how they did it. They did like big, like tarps or canvases or something. So I'm back there and I get to meet Nico. And at that time, Bruce Dickinson had just quit. And I said, "Hey man, what happened to Bruce?" He's like, "Oh, he's off to be solo, like Gabriel." And I was like laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's great. What a great answer, So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he has a restaurant down there I visited once too.
Oh yeah, Rock and Roll Ribs. Yeah,
yes.
Great place.
And he does a show every year there, and he's doing his oh my God, the name of his band,
Titanium Tart.
Yeah, he travels around Florida. That's about it.
Yeah. Titanium Tart, a play on the word Iron Maiden. So yeah, he's still doing that, and yeah, that's pretty cool that we have that down here still,
Who in the world has that podium? That would be killer to display at the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal exhibit.
I'll have to look and see if I can find it. I mean,
that would be
I really
sick.
don't know. Yeah, I wish I could find it, but not sure.
It might be melted down to. I need this pipe knows? For my.
Right, it could be.
Was it metal or was it it was metal?
No, it's like that
PVC,
like that black, that black flexible tubing.
Okay,
yeah, it's like
gotcha.
Plastic,
Yeah, so there was quite a few bands that came out of, like we were talking about. There was this thing called the Southeastern Music Conference up here, and that's where like Seven Dust came down and played from Atlanta, and they got signed through that. Resurrection from here got signed. I think, I think Marilyn Manson got signed through that. Jenna Torturers, I think they were approached because of the Southeastern music. My band played that. I was a funk alternative band at that time, and we played it, and I think we opened the whole fucking show, and Marilyn Manson was like close to the headlining. So we played early in the day, but hey, we played with Marilyn Manson. Yay.
Yeah, I remember playing with them at one of the Slammies, and I was backstage it was called a place called Revolution. And I'm back there, like they were, kind of, Jordy had joined them from Mboogalard. He was their bass player. Or no, wait, he was the guitar player in Mboogalard. He joined Marilyn Manson to play bass. I was backstage and he was wearing like full on lingerie. And I was like, what the hell, man? I was like, I don't think so, man. I was like, no. So, but besides that, I do remember playing a gig with them at the Button South, and, he had just gotten tattooed, Marilyn Manson. So he was showing me his new piece on his forearm, and I had just got something too. We're like showing each other our new tattoos and stuff, So yeah, we played a lot of shows with them. Summers on the Beach, Button South.
And they were, even though they were a strange band back then, Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids, by the way, and they were still a huge part of the Florida metal scene because they played with a lot of metal bands all the time.
Oh, definitely. And like, so one of the guys that we recorded with down here, Studio 13, Jeremy Stotska, he was recording them and he did live sound for them. He was in a band called Sinful Lust. And I think he he recorded a couple of songs that they did. I can't remember exactly the deal, but something early on,
Yeah.
he worked with them quite a bit, so.
Back then I remember them, Marilyn Manson come in the Spooky Kids, and I remember seeing them one time at the Ritz, and God, it was before they were signed. And I think they brought out like 100 fucking lunch boxes on stage and just placed them around. Oh, yeah. I wish I could find a picture of that, because I remember them doing that, and it kind of disappeared when they got popular. But,
yeah, because all their fans, like locally, would bring these lunch boxes, and a lot of the times they'd sit like in the in the front on the floor. They would sit with their lunch boxes. And
oh, is that what it was? I can't remember.
Yeah, sure. We would see that all the time, and I remember
they had the song Lunchbox or something.
Oh, okay. I remember JP Soares, our other guitar player in Ray Dave, was like, they're going to be huge, and he was right.
Yeah, I think they're doing festivals right now over in Europe. But
yeah, I saw that they're doing stuff again. Yeah.
So anyway, Raped Ape, you I remember you telling me you played a big show up here and you got approached by Monty Connor.
Yeah, well, we knew he was coming. He was, there to check out bands, and we had heard he was, checking us out. So afterwards, he had said to our manager, "Look, they're great. I've got, a lot of ideas for them, but the thing is, their bass player is, not moving around on stage, and he's really short, so it's really noticeable. They need to, get a new bass player." So, and I think he mentioned something about the name too. He didn't like the name, so we were just like really hard headed and young. We're like, nah, Mike's our bass player, and he's one of our brothers, so there's no way we're getting rid of him. So
that's like the Anthrax effect, Dan
Lilker,
he's too tall. It's like
too tall, yeah.
Whatever.
Right. Things are, the stars have to be aligned, and that's how things work.
Yeah.
And, sometimes things aren't meant to be, but it could be any reason. And, later on, I had also heard something about, him saying that we didn't really have songs so much as like, we didn't have the chorus, verse, that kind of thing, but, I beg to differ on that one, because I think we did, so.
Yeah. And you this whole time had been doing art, and were you doing, tattooing or?
Not yet. At that time I was, airbrushing. My bass player, Rattlehead, he had bought me an airbrush for Christmas one year. So I got into airbrushing, and I did the cover for Terminal Reality in my parents' garage. Highly inspired by H.R. Giger. When I saw his work, it just changed everything. So I became obsessed with trying to figure out how to, do this artwork with an airbrush. And then I moved from that into doing some brush work, and then eventually became interested in tattooing, because I was also drawing a lot of our flyers and, different covers for some other bands and stuff. So that led me into tattooing, and I was learning to tattoo. My bass player got a tattoo by this guy, Big Jeff. He was tattooing at his house, but he said, "Hey, he's opening his own shop, so you should come with me. And, you should learn tattoo, man. Maybe he'll teach you. That would be a great, career for you." So, again, Dan, or Rattlehead, he bought me an airbrush. He got me into tattooing. So I give him a lot of credit, man, for putting me on the path. And he was a lot older than us, quite a bit, and he really helped me a lot and inspired me in a lot of ways, but he had the radio station and all that stuff, so, and also, my drummer too, he was always pushing me. JC Dwyer, he was like, "Man, you should tattoo, because if you tattoo, I get free tattoos." So I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I should do it." So I got, apprenticing with Big Jeff.
Yeah, I should do tattoos so I can give you free tattoos.
Right. Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, there you go." So, and I've done a lot of work on him since. So I went with Jeff, and he did my first tattoo, and it was something I had drawn. It was like a skull with like a spiked ball, like coming out of the mouth. Very Pushead influenced. I was really into Pushead art. And he started drawing it on me with like a ballpoint pen. And I said, nah, I want it bigger. I want to fill up my arm, So like even to this day, I'm always like pushing to do big tattoos, and it looks better. It ages better. You can see it from across the street. I mean, this is something I've always been into. So he was like, well, I have to charge you for it, because he was doing it for free as part of my apprenticeship, I said, no, I'll pay you. I was like, I don't have it on me right now, but I'll pay you like next week. So I did, and he did it, and he added some of his own stuff to it. So that was my first tattoo, and I worked with him for a while. Just sort of, I would draw stuff on. He would tell me, okay, somebody wants this. He'd show me a book, or he had all these different books, different art and stuff, like Boris and Frazetta and stuff like that. So I would take the ballpoint pen and draw it on people. So I learned, that was my first thing, was how to draw with a ballpoint pen on skin, which let me tell you is not easy to do.
I can imagine.
And we don't do that anymore. It doesn't work well. It's really hard to draw on skin, because you can wipe it with alcohol and get the oils off, but it just doesn't like to cooperate. We use Sharpies now, which works great, So I still draw with Sharpies on skin, when I'm not using stencils. But so that was my apprenticeship time, and I did that for about a year. And, he was listening to a lot of Cult Electric, and that's one of my favorite albums from the Cult is Electric.
Yeah.
And AC/DC, he loved AC/DC. So like, that was another thing too. I was in there learning the tattoo, listening to that stuff. And I still love it to this day. There was, like Electric, it was my favorite Cult album. And I actually saw them recently. They played down in Fort Lauderdale, and, it was crazy, because like, I was up in like maybe third row, and the whole time I'm like rocking out, just I love all those songs from Electric, and tattooing all these years, I got a bad back. My back is shot. I've got sciatica. So last song was like slow song. I sit down on my seat, and Ian Astbury sees me and comes up to the side of the stage and goes, "Hey, excuse me, Sal, how old are you?" And I'm like thinking, is this guy talking to me? So I figured out, yeah, he's talking to me. He's giving me shit because I'm sitting down,
Yeah.
And so it's like everybody's standing, So I'm like, so I give him like the sign, like 5 and then 3. He's like 50 something. He goes, get out your seat. So I got scolded by Ian Astbury from the stage.
Funny,
but
crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a great show. But
yeah.
So then
you have an eclectic taste in music, something like I do, man, because I don't think you've named something that I didn't like so far. It's like,
I mean, I like a lot of stuff, but I definitely am drawn to the heavier and just anything that's rock, that rocks,
but I also I fall
sure.
in the southern rock side, because I came from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's just field up there, and of course old school country. But
yeah, I like that stuff too. I mean, I was driving my dad around the other day. We're listening to Hank Williams, Senior, and that stuff's still great. It's just so good, I love it, and Junior too. I mean, I love a lot of his stuff.
And 3.
Yeah, Hank 3. Yep. Yeah. I was in Seattle with a tattooer named Bob Tyrell. You might have heard of him. He does a lot of horror tattoos. He's tattooed a lot of band people. He knows everybody in Pantera and people like that. But I'm hanging out with him at a guitar store in Seattle, and there's this guitar called the Paul. And the Paul is like a special Les Paul. It's wood finish, and it has no binding or anything like that. It's very like stripped down. And he goes, "Oh, the Paul." So he goes, "Man, Hank 3 told me if I ever saw one, I had to buy it for him." So I found the Paul, and I was like, so basically he was like, "Hey man, you got any money on you?" I was like, "Yeah, I got money." It was like a grand or whatever. So I was like, "Yeah, I can." He's like, I'll pay you back when we get back to our buddy's house, So I helped like find and get the Paul for Hank 3 that he bought for him. Yeah.
That's awesome.
degrees of separation, man. Right? Crazy.
Hell yeah. Didn't you say you played with the Mentors once?
Yeah, we there was a gig. There was a place called the Rock and Roll Cafe, and that was in Lantana, Florida. And
where the hell is Lantana?
So Lantana is like it's part of like West Palm Beach, so it's like east.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like intercoastal town, you know.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a lot of like, you know, intercoastal waterway like places, like to eat and like different like, you know, fishing charters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know? So the Rock and Roll Cafe was, you know, a place where local bands would play, and they had some national acts. So yeah, we played there with the Mentors and a band called the Roids, and St. Vitus played also. That was a crazy gig, man. I mean,
crazy.
When the Mentors played, they had a girl, you know, was topless, and you know, we were all really young. We're just like, oh man, it's great! Wow, what a great band, you know.
Great.
So that was a fun experience. Yeah, it was awesome, you know. And so they all stayed at Rattlehead's house that night, and he calls me up in the morning. He's like, "Pooch, you got to get over here, man. These guys are still here. We've been up all night." And I was like, "I'll be right over." So I get over there, and they show me a picture of El Duce laying on the ground, and they're like, "Look, they took a shit on his chest. The guitarist, Sicky Wife Beater, took a shit on his chest." And then I'm like, "Oh my god, these guys are nuts." And then later they're like, it was just a baby Ruth. It wasn't real. They just wanted to fuck with him when he woke up.
That's fucking funny.
But yeah, that was crazy times, man. You know.
So,
and then also at that place, I met Jaco Pastorius. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a bass player from Weather Report jazz band.
I don't know.
And he was like hanging out there, just like he had his album with him, and he came up to me. I guess he might have saw us play or something, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm Jaco Pastorius," and he's showing me the album, and I'm like, I'd heard of him from a Carvin catalog. Carvin made guitars and amps, but I didn't really know his music because I wasn't listening to Weather Report. I wasn't listening to Jazz Fusion, you know.
Yeah.
But I knew the name, and so I said, "You're not Jaco," and he calls the waitress over, tell him, and she's like, "Yeah, that's Jaco." So, you know, we sat there. I bought him a beer, and he told me about is like all the stuff he's done and who he's played with, and you know, it was like I didn't know half the stuff he was talking about because I don't know jazz, you know.
Yeah.
He was there a couple of times. I saw him there another time riding around his bicycle with bass. He was like floating around like, you know, South Florida basically at that time.
Yeah.
Living like on park benches and stuff like that.
Wow.
So Jaco Pastorius, yeah, he's a really famous like jazz bass player, and he ended up dying. He got killed. He went to a gig down in Miami, and it was Santana, and like he jumped on stage, and the bouncers like, you know, threw him off stage, and then he wound up going to some bar, and some bouncer like beat him to death or something. He was like just way out of control, drunk. Real sad story.
Yeah. So back to Raped Ape, how did you get signed and the whole Paingod transition thing? How did that all happen?
So, basically it came to a point where I was, you know, I was tattooing by this point at a shop, and I decided to open my own shop, and I had the opportunity to do it. I found a place, and then we heard from Century Media Records that they wanted to sign us. So I was just like, you know, I was kind of like thinking about kind of quitting anyway, but I was like, all right, let me just keep it together and still keep doing it. We recorded the album with Jeremy Stotska, and
how did they hear about you?
For Century Media.
Did y'all do tape trading and all that shit too? Like I did? I mean, I did a lot of tape trading.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, recently, our guitar player, JP, he was playing somewhere in Jupiter, Florida, and Jason Newsted lives there. And so he saw him play. So they kind of like, you know, started talking, and they struck up a friendship, and JP, you know, has been to his house and jammed with him and stuff. So
oh, sick.
He actually, yeah, he actually one day, like, he texted him. He's like, "Man, I was looking through all these old boxes. Look what I found." and he found the Raped Ape. I think it was Terminal Reality, a cassette of that he had found in one of his boxes. So somehow it got to him. I don't even really know how or who gave it to him, but he had it, So yeah, you know how that goes. I mean, people, tape trading was going around with a lot of different people. I mean, our manager was shopping us to a lot of labels. So
I gotcha.
I think it just took a while for Century Media to kind of like,
listen to it,
to do it. Yeah. So, but one of the stipulations was we want you to change the name. So, I was like, okay, we're trying to come up with names, and I read a story by Harlan Ellison called Paingod and Other Tales, and I said, that's pretty cool. I told the guys, and they're like, that works. That's a cool name, So, and I think one of the inspirations for me was I was listening to Godflesh, and the word Paingod sort of reminded me of that. It's like, because I always thought Godflesh was a great name,
Yeah.
So that's how that tied into that whole thing. I mean, I was into Napalm Death, Godflesh. I was listening to a lot of that stuff at that time,
Some grind.
Fear Factory had come out, and the first Fear Factory was insane. I remember just being like,
it was different.
Hell,
It was different. It was badass.
I loved it. Yeah. So it was cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. I mean, and then eventually, like, Biohazard, we played with them in Miami, and that really kicked our ass. I mean, we opened for them, and we were playing like all this crazy technical shit, and like we were listening to Atheist and stuff like that, and people were just standing there like they didn't know. It went over their heads. I guess there was people that knew of Biohazard and stuff, and when they played, the whole place was moving. I mean, like, it was fucking nuts. And we were like, okay, maybe we have to like simplify a few things here, So that's those kind of things that inspire you, the bands you play with and what you see,
Yeah.
I mean, huge things like that. So that's where we kind of like changed a lot of our stuff and got a little away from the technical stuff and got a little more, I was listening to Helmet at that time and Prong and stuff like that. So,
and sometimes
you get inspired by different things.
Sometimes simple is better. But the technical shit is badass.
It's one of those things. It's like we were into so many different things.
Yeah.
And you're
mentioned
inspired
Cynic.
by all these. Yeah, for sure. Them too. I mean, what they were doing, and then what they did with Def, and I just remember, hanging out with them, at Washington Square after they did that, and hearing, I think Tony Choi had played me the intro to Human, and I was like, what the fuck? I was just like, it was amazing. Things that were happening all around us were mind blowing, really,
Hell yeah.
And we got to hang out with Chuck one time, just driving around in Orlando. It was another, like, maybe a music showcase or a music awards or something. And, our road guy had a van. So we were all just riding around in the van with Chuck, just smoking, joints and talking shit, and it was like another amazing experience, for the books,
Hell yeah. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of those. I don't know any different because my friends just happened to be in bands that did pretty good. And cause I'll go other places and people will go, man, it must've been amazing. Well, I don't know. It was amazing, but I don't know what your version of amazing is compared to mine because it was just normal,
Right.
It was, I mean, I look at it and I go other places and I see my friends in front of all these fans and I see fans coming up. It's fucking cool. I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them. But I never, it's hard to explain, I didn't grow up in Des Moines, Iowa, Des Moines or something where there wasn't much going on. And, I happened to come here and it was like you experienced the same kind of thing too,
Well, I mean, like when I was in high school and I saw Sabotage, in the back of their album, it said Florida, I was like, oh, okay. And then I bought a Nasty Savage album, again, Florida.
Yeah.
Agent Steel was another band, real obscure. They were based out of Florida for a short while.
Yeah.
and I remember seeing that too and going, man, okay, so, we can like do this in Florida. So that was another inspiration to me to say, well, okay. And seeing Morrisound on some of those recordings, like, okay, well, that's where we got to go. That's the place to go,
Yeah. And it was hundreds of bands came here and to Tampa and recorded under Jim, Tom, and Scott. So, yeah. So Paingod, and you were already invested in your tattooing. So you left Paingod?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I was pretty much planning on quitting anyways. And the opportunity happened where I was opening my shop, and then I had to make a decision to tour. It was to Europe to tour with the band. And I don't remember what the band was, but I was like, man, I got to do this. Tattooing was lucrative. It was happening for me. I was like, okay, I can do this on my own. It's my thing and it's my future. So, and what the band up to that point, I wasn't making any money at all.
Right.
So
yeah.
I had to, make that decision, and that's what I decided. So, and I don't regret it. We had a great time. What we did, it was, I loved every minute of it, but it was time for that. That's what happened for me. So,
well, to me and a lot of people that I know, Rape Dape was a big part of our scene, and that's why we decided, fuck, you guys have to be a part of this Tampa Bay Museum of Metal exhibit, and that's why I started reaching out.
That. I'm honored that people still remember, and that's like I said, it's really nice to be included. I'm honored. Yeah. And the guys too, I told them all what's happening, and they're all just like really happy to be involved. So they're digging up some stuff for me to include in the show. So
hell yeah. And I think I told you this before. I had Rob over here one day, and I was like, dude, I need you to help me get a hold of Pooch, man. He goes, just hit him up on Facebook.
Yeah.
He'll answer you.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably not a good imitation of him, but
yeah, you kind of got it there. Yeah.
I love Rob. He's one of my good friends, man.
Yeah, man, he's awesome. And, so recently I tattooed him, and we were kind of talking like about what to do. And
we're talking about, just so everybody knows, we're talking about Rob Barrett, Cannibal Corpse, Malevolent, and Solstice.
Solstice, yes. Listen, man, Solstice, to me, is one of the best, thrash albums. I'd say it's a little crossover death thrash, but like, man, come on, that is amazing, just ripping out.
Yeah,
yeah. And we both played. We opened for Coroner in West Palm one time, and he came up and did a song with us. So we've been friends for a long time, and one of the things I've always prided myself on my guitar tone, which is a pretty simple thing that I figured out a long time ago, was basically using a graphic EQ pedal, because I read Randy Rhoads had one, and just messing around with it, I come up with this, way to set it, which is like basically an upside down V, which cuts your lows, boosts the mids, and then cuts some of the highs. And that in incorporation with a Marshall Jubilee 50-watt head. And the Marshall cabinet too, the Jubilee cabinet had different speakers than most Marshalls, which was a bit of a mid cut, like a scoop sound. So the combination of those things, I created this tone that, really, like, people like Rob and other people would be like, what the hell are you using, man? And so Rob he's got the Jubilee head and all that stuff. And like, we're talking, the other day about, what he wants to get tattooed. And he was talking about maybe doing some kind of like, Paul Booth, like some kind of demon thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just brought up, hey man, I saw this crazy like picture of, General Ursus from Planet of the Apes. And he's got the Jubilee half stack, and on top of it, he's got like one of those cards, like the movie posters from Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So he's like, dude, why don't I get General Ursus from Planet of the Apes, dude, for Rape Ape? And I was like, No fucking way. Really, dude? He's like, yeah. And that's what I did on him, dude. I did fucking the guy Planet of the Apes on him in honor of Rape Date. I mean, like, dude,
That's
can
killer.
I be any more honored in my life? I mean, dude.
Hey,
Yeah, so he gave me that huge honor, really.
you just did a killer Rob imitation there. That was great. Way better than mine.
Ooh, Rape Date, bro.
Exactly. Oh man, Rob's awesome.
And another imitation I have is Phil from Malevolent. Dude, fast.
Dude. What man? And Brett, man, I miss that dude. He was yeah.
Rest in peace, Brett.
Rob always quotes him nowadays. It's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, he's funny as hell, man. But yeah, so like I said, I was really honored that he got that. And when I told the other guys in the band, they're like, "No way, really?" I was like, "Yeah, man." So,
yeah, and I have his guitar that we're gonna put on display. That again, that you painted, hand painted it.
Yeah. Yep, and that was he asked me to do something, some crazy zombie, with real gore and stuff. And then I also did another one which has like kind of like gears and like busted up like armor, almost like a tank. He's like, imagine a tank if it got shot up, like riveted metal and stuff with gears. That's another one
for him.
Guitars I did for
a
him.
Second one for him.
Yeah.
Oh, killer.
Yeah. That's a cool one. Yeah.
So
it's like I said, it's like metal and gears and rusty metal and stuff.
Well, you have a website that people can get art and shirts from. I was checking it out.
It's alteredstatetattoo.com. And there's a bunch of merch on there. There's also poochisland.com where I have prints and all my art and paintings and stuff like that,
Hell yeah, man. I got to check this shit out when I go down there and grab this stuff. And man, is that Studio 13, is that near you at all?
It's south of me. So I'd say he's probably maybe 45 minutes south of me.
I might have to try to visit him as well. Just to
man, definitely.
Just to talk.
Yeah, you should hit him up, man. He's done a lot. And, there's a really cool interview with him on the Florida Sound Archive. There's one with me on there as well. But you can check that out too and just hear about all the stuff that he did and, bands that he worked with.
Oh yeah, you sent me that link. That's right.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, fuck, man. So what's in the future? Do you still play guitar? You still pick it up and fuck around?
I do. Yep. I've got, like 10 guitars and I've got a bunch of amps. I'm a real amp nerd too. I'm into tube amps and I bought a 5150 EVH recently and I'm using that now. I was doing this band called Ferocious Stones with some buddies. JC was the drummer from Rape Date, but he moved. So, we're keeping it going and we've recorded probably about 4 or 5 songs over the years. And it's a little different. Huh? It's a little more, okay. Yeah. It's a little more, stoner metal, kind of like influenced by like, COC, Kaya, Down, stuff like that, with a bit of Motorhead, some rock and roll too, So, I'm still doing that. So Ferocious Stones is what I'm currently doing. And for now, we're just doing it for fun. I don't have a lot of time, but if we ever do play somewhere, I would be playing with them. So
fuck yeah. Well, hey man, I fucking look forward to setting up this shit that you guys are putting together and loaning to me. And it's gonna be
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
We got to represent all Florida metal, man. And I can't do everything at once, but a little bit at a time. And shit, last year we had over 30 bands represented. So we can probably do that and more this year. Hell yeah.
Well, cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to be there. And, I'll have some good stuff for you.
Fuck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it, Pooch. And, I just want to tell everybody, if you go by Encyclopedia Metallium, the Metal Archives, it is incorrect. Pooch is not in Sworn Enemy, even though they both have the same name, which is an odd name. No offense. I'm just saying it's a unique name. Let's say that it's unique. And
there's not a lot of Pucciarellis out there,
right,
for sure.
Right. And it's not even your picture in here, but it's your history.
Right.
But they also throw sworn anyway. Anyways, I had to point that out to the listeners. And well, Pooch, I appreciate you joining me, and I look forward to hooking up with you in the near future to do that and having you as a guest. And hell yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks, Dave. And once again, I'm honored, and I'm glad that, you know, somebody still remembers what we did, and grateful to be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to play a lot of Rape Tape tonight, so fuck yeah. All right, brother, I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. Take care.
All right, see ya.